It's time for Mr. Fundamental!
Presented by no one.
This might not be the best time to post this, after the Raptors Game 1 loss to the Celtics. I'll get into that matchup near the end. If you don't want to hear about the regular season, then feel free to just skip ahead. Last offseason, I predicted the Raptors to be fighting for the 4th to 6th seed this year. Boy was I wrong. I did compare them to the 2014-15 Hawks that got 60 wins with a very well-rounded team, but they've blown that comparison out the water as well. It's taken some time to do a full Raptors breakdown, since Nick Nurse has pulled out every trick in the playbook to elevate this team after Kawhi's departure. This is a two-part video, and we're focusing on the defense in this one, so let's get into it. Packing the paint and recovering to shooters has become a great strategy to build an effective defense, and the Raptors' defense is no different. In the pick and roll, Boucher tries to contain, while Davis chases McConnell. Boucher couldn't stay in front, so OG jabs at the drive, forcing the extra pass and the all-out effort to run Warren off the line. What makes the Raptors special is adding all the best parts in different defensive coverages into one. Fournier gets a double pin down, so Lowry and Siakam switches to not trail the play. Siakam fights over the screen to prevent the three and funneling him into Gasol. The Suns have upped their defensive rating by bringing the help earlier at the nail, and this is exactly what VanVleet does. With 3 players surrounding him, a pass is the only good option, and he hits Ennis in the corner. Here's another all-out effort to contest the 3. The Raptors are containing the pick and roll, and see how Siakam is already helping on the roller. Once Bam cuts through, both Siakam and OG cuts off the passing lane. Siakam does this because he knows he can recover on Leonard during the pass, and he does. The Heat get into a pick and roll, and the Raptors switch, since having either Siakam or OG on Butler is a good option. The Heat now has to generate a shot with 8 seconds left on the clock. The Raptors collapses on the drive, with OG jabbing at Butler, Gasol rotating over, and VanVleet sinking to cover Bam. On the kickout, Lowry runs out to contest, and see how Siakam and VanVleet are ready to close out on Robinson if the pass was made. One of the things I really like is adding in the Tom Thibodeau ice principles. I'm not talking about preventing middle or sagging the big. I'm talking about using the sidelines and baseline as an extra defender. Gasol doesn't usually step up this high in pick and rolls, but since it's ran really close to the sideline, they try to suffocate the ball handler. Augustine has no choice but to dribble towards the corner, which limits the Magic's offensive options. Gasol retreats when Augustine picks up his dribble, allowing Siakam to recover. The Magic run a handoff, and VanVleet is already in help position to discourage a drive. Having long and athletic defenders to help at the nail minimizes the threat of leaving open shooters, and Siakam gets the block. Effort is never an issue with this bunch. Just sit back and enjoy all the hustle and effort on closing up any openings on the possession, even though it did lead to a made 3. Of course, the Raptors would be selective on who to help off of. Once Fultz gets it in the corner, check out how VanVleet isn't closing out as hard as the other possessions, since they do want Fultz to take the shot. Once OG gets beaten off the dribble, both Lowry and Powell rotates into the paint. Powell is benefiting off the bad spacing on the weak side, while Lowry is helping off a poor shooter in Dunn. They barely even try to contest, and they get the stop. There are 2 benefits for helping early and ding down 1 pass away. Tatum makes a nice move against Davis, but look at the path Tatum has to get to the front of the rim. He needs to get past Davis, protect the ball from Ibaka, and OG is about to meet him at the mid-post area. Also, with Ibaka digging down, Tatum has to pick up his dribble earlier, and here he turns it over. Another benefit is allowing the Raptors to push up on players. OG is up against Tatum above the 3-point line, knowing that his teammates would help if he gets beaten. McCall helps on the drive, while Ibaka is ready to meet Tatum at the rim. With the Raptors' suffocating defense and the clock winding down, Tatum pushes off and gets called for the offensive foul. Giving up as many 3s as the Raptors is always risky, and some might say they're lucky that the offense isn't making these 3s. Well, there is a reason why they aren't making them. Miller helps on the drive, but look at the angle of the pass. Being this close to the passer increases the chance of deflecting the ball. Even if he doesn't deflect it, these passes become off target. The pass reaches CP3's left side, and he's not in a position to shoot or drive. The time he uses to be in a triple threat allows Miller to recover. A very underrated move here by Davis, shadowing Miller in case of a drive, and once Miller gets in front of CP3, he recovers to Shea. It's the same concept when CP3 drives. Ibaka closes up the passing angles, and Lowry rotating to the corner to force CP3 to change midair, and turns it over. Having bigs initiating the offense with some off-ball action is a big thing now, and the Raptors combat that by having one player sink lower while the other top blocks. This prevents any backdoor cuts and extends the passing distance to the shooter. See how Siakam had enough time to recover on Dragic. With VanVleet on Butler, the Heat could take advantage in the post, but credit Gasol for rotating down and pre-switching. Coming off the screen, Gasol is now in the paint to contest any drives, while VanVleet is closing out hard in the corner. Lowry and Powell do the same here. Trent was open for a second, but Ibaka is in position to meet him at the rim. Siakam is all up on Nurkic, which is why he never saw the opening. The Raptors defense got a lot of exposure for locking up NBA stars during the regular season. That's because they tailored the defense based on their opponents from game to game. They still do the same things I've said before, but with a few tweaks. LeBron is coming down the floor, so Siakam is shadowing, as well as VanVleet. All this just shrinks the floor for LeBron and forces him to give up the ball. KCP is pretty open, but all that pressure led to an off-target pass. In the end, all they got was a contested deep 3 for Kuzma, so that's a win. The Raptors load up the paint when LeBron is working in the mid-post. With both Gasol and Siakam ready to meet LeBron at the rim, it prompts LeBron to take the jumper. Most defenses will sag off LeBron to encourage the jumper. OG is all up on LeBron and trusting the help defense. All this just makes the fading jump shot even tougher. Butler decides to isolate on Siakam. VanVleet digs down early one pass away, forcing Butler to pick up his dribble early. Butler had to take off further from the rim with longer strides, losing all his explosiveness, and couldn't finish against Gasol. Having great one-on-one defenders definitely helps with stopping stars. While Tatum is focused on shaking off OG, that's when the help defenders swoop in to catch them off guard. Melo still gets in front of the rim against Siakam, but he gets so caught up on scoring over him that he doesn't realize OG rotated down and gets the block from behind. Against Harden, the Raptors double him near half court to force others to create instead. This takes a lot of hustle and effort to recover, but again, that's not an issue with this team. The Raptors' big would show on screens against players who are a threat to pull up from deep. While Harrow looks open on the roll, Siakam is in position to stop him. Gasol's body is positioned to block off a direct pass, while also pushing Kawhi towards VanVleet's help. Kawhi is basically triple teamed, and this is what the Raptors' defense is about, forcing the ball out of the Stars' hands. If they don't, then it's a turnover and fuels the Raptors' transition game, but we'll get to that in the next video. We see more of this in late game situations, when a pull-up 3 is a no-no. A slight show by Gasol gets the ball out of Levine's hands, and now players have to play out of comfort zones. The Raptors' defense collapses on any penetration, and help is always in position. Here, Gasol meets Markkanen at the rim for the block. Ibaka shows on CP3, and even though he gets beat, that early help one pass away gets Lowry in position to cut off the lane. CP3 tries to kick it out, but VanVleet is in position to intercept. This should have been a jump ball, and although CP3 drains the jumper, it was great defense nonetheless. Occasionally, the Raptors would throw out some zone defense, and I talked about the effect of playing zone in another video, so go check that out. The key to running an effective zone at the NBA level is to be willing to rotate outside your designated area. The Raptors love putting Siakam out on top. His quickness and length just spearheads any ball screens or any openings out on top. I love Gasol, and getting him at the trade deadline last year was so beneficial to the Raptors on both ends of the floor. Focusing on the defensive end, he has a great feel of when to help and where he should be. He carries the Raptors' game plan to a T. He's in great position to contain penetration on back-to-back screens. On the last screen, he shows up higher since VanVleet got stuck on a Vucevic screen. He stays on Augustine, but rotates down when they hit Vucevic in the post. Credit Vuce for the pass, but the Raptors guards closes out with all their might. Once he realizes the screen is set towards the sideline, he presses up right away and gets out of Levine's hands. The offense stagnates, and when they get into a handoff, Gasol checks the clock, then challenges the shot without fouling. He's not the quickest player, but he presses up on his man like any other Raptors. This pressure forces silly mistakes, and Bam gets called for the travel. Gasol has his tricks, and one of them is pushing off his man in handoffs. This gets him in position, but also ensures his man is never lower than him, letting him guard two players at once. He pushes up on Tice to force the offense to run much higher. When Tice turns around to set a screen, he backs off to let VanVleet get around. The Raptors' help defense is now on full display, and Lowry gets the block on Kemba. He knows when to trap hard, and they force Kawhi to the half-court line before he throws the ball away. It's a close game, and they have to show on the Levine ball screen. Gasol calls for Lowry to show instead, which is some next-level stuff. The Bulls do a good job breaking it down, but the Raptors were already in help position and forced a turnover. In the playoffs, the Raptors will have to face the Celtics in either the Bucks or Heat. The Celtics are missing Hayward, which eliminates the Celtics' extra small ball lineup. Tice and other bigs can't replicate their shot creation off the dribble, meaning the Raptors can keep Gasol and Ibaka on the floor, which is big. The Raptors' defense is built for the playoffs, where they load up on star players' ISOs and take away the mid-range pull-up opportunities as well. That contributed to the average production by Brown and a poor first half by Tatum in Game 1. If you look at the Celtics star duo's made shots, there are only 2 total shots where a Raptor player wasn't near them. To sum it up, the Raptors stars were just making their shots, and the role players were making the Raptors pay. As much as I love Smart, he ain't going 5 for 9 from deep all series. The Raptors' ever-changing defense is very hard to predict, even for a great coach like Brad Stevens. This was on display when the Raptors went into zone defense in the second quarter to get as close as 9 points, but it was their offense that let them down, and why they couldn't cut into the lead. Kemba's 18 and 10 showing was impressive, but again, most of his shots were contested, and he was making great passes in the air. This stuns the Raptors' help defense, and gives them more time to make the correct decision. While this is a strategy to beat the Raptors' defense, it also runs the risk of turning the ball over. The Raptors forced 22 turnovers, kept the Celtics off the free throw line until the 4th, while having Siakam and Lowry dealing with foul troubles early. I'm gonna give the Raptors the benefit of the doubt in Game 1, especially on the defensive end, since they did what they set out to do, and it was the Celtics' hot shooting and the Raptors' offense that lost them this game. That's not to take anything away from the Celtics, since I think they're one of the more equipped teams to take down the Raptors in the East. The Raptors made an interesting choice against the Heat by putting Gasol on Crowder and OG on Bam. This limits the effectiveness of the Heat's bread and butter handoffs, or forces Crowder out of his comfort zone. The Raptors are well matched with the Bucks, but the real advantage is on the offensive end. The Raptors' defense is so amazing to watch, and the ability to mix and match defensive schemes takes a lot of time in the film room and work during training sessions. That full court press to get the epic comeback win against the Wolves is a great example. The Raptors have raised the bar for what a great defense is, and watch other teams start to copy what they're doing. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to drop a like down below, and make sure to subscribe. Stay tuned for part 2 about the Raptors offense, and I'll see you guys then.